I'm not clear if I'm out of time or not.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we'll have plenty more time to talk about all the different issues. Sorry, I'm just going to go ahead and move on here. So, same question for Sedum. Tell a little bit about yourself and why you are running. Sedum, you're still muted on your end. You are still muted.
How about now?
Now you're good. Go ahead.
Greetings from stolen land, but in South Central Los Angeles, where I was born, raised, and rose. So my name is Surinam Moyawasife Curry. I'm a fourth generation Black farmer, and I chose to run to be the Green Party presidential nominee because to provide leadership that I felt was lacking to advance truly resilient and sustainable social, economic, and environmental policies and laws. I see my decision to run for the Green Party presidential nomination as part of a larger work with the Green Party of the U.S. over the last 18 years that I've engaged in building a permanent, non-corporate political party. I have known since I joined 18 years ago that we must end white privilege. We must become anti racist. We must become anti capitalist and connect with the Earth's biodynamic system. It's 1 minute, so I did my 1 minute.
It's 2 minutes.
Yeah, you got two.
We have a minute left. Yeah.
So, and the second question was about myself, or?
Yeah, tell us a bit about yourself. Yeah.
Okay. I come from, as I said, I'm a fourth generation farmer. I come with business experience. I own company. I've worked for other companies, and I come from the nonprofit world. One of the things that I bring to the table is using a business model canvas for the Green Party. So we have a strategic and tactical plan to win votes, talking about demographics, talking about how we can do succession planning. At the end of this decade, this will be a brown and red America, but there's nothing in place to have a succession plan. So those are the primary goals of building the Green Party and building awareness of the party's sustainability values and policies, as well as becoming resilient because the earth doesn't need us. We need this planet. There's no substitute for planet Earth.
All right, that's time.
All right.
Thank you.
Awesome. So we're going to move on to our first meaty question here. So the way this is going to work is we're going to look for a minute answer from each of you guys. And after each person gives an answer, I'll just put out an invitation for rebuttal if you guys happen to disagree. And rebuttal time would be about 30 seconds. So if no one wants to rebut something said, we'll just move on to the next person, or we'll give the other two time to rebut. So first question here. The intended headline for this was about coalition building and expanding the party. So what is the way that the Green Party needs to work to expand its membership, its reach, and build a winning coalition? If we could start out reverse order here with Sedadam.
It's coalition building leadership. What is the way to build and expand the party?
Yes.
An excellent question for me. Leadership is essential. What happens is we're not 50 years old as a party. So that I mentioned the business model canvas. At the beginning of this election cycle, our party put together what's called a green positioning system. We ask over 500 Greens, what can we agree on so that we move forward? This should have been done at our national annual meeting with all candidates and then with everybody present and online so that we understand that we're disorganized. That didn't happen. So, one, we need to meet and build on the green positioning system that our party put forward. Second, we have to identify the demographic groups, all that accept our values. Third, we have to end white privilege within our party. Second, we have to end sexism, and we have to become anti-racist. These three things alone will allow us to expand and build on the most logical, the most soul connected, the most heart connected to what we want to see happen in our party.
All right.
All right. Would anyone like to rebut that? I assume not for these early ones. So next we'll have David. Same question.
Same question.
Well, first, I agree with what Sudanam said. I would like to add that the Green Party runs on 10 key values, and we need to be true to our key values, especially the way we conduct things internally. We need to be fair to everybody and try to have like transparent leadership and decision making, and try to seek consensus on things. And we need to be like open to everybody joining and having a say. And that's not how it is now. There's like a group of party insiders who try to control everything and drive people out. And that's why the Green Party has been getting smaller instead of bigger. And we need to be open to people from different points of view and different nationalities and educational backgrounds, and like all sorts of different people. And I mean, the way to do that is actually to speak out radically on issues. We're like a radical party that wants to really transform this country and the world, and we need to like, speak out on our issues instead of like trying to dumb down and try to say things that's only going to be palatable to Democrats and people who are like enmeshed in the mainstream media, because there are tens of millions of people out there who vote at all because there's no party for them, and those are the people that we need to work with, not try to get people to leave the Democrats to join us.
All right. Sorry. Anyone looking to rebut anything that David just said?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
This is the reality. In 2008, I ran as a VP to learn the system. Everyone that's running except for myself and Kent, they don't understand is if we unify, plan, deliver, and do things together, that 20% of Greens, they couldn't exist. You see, you and I connected on this debate. We came up with a 9-series debate. Whether those folks come or not, we as candidates, our job is to overgrow and expand the Green Party. So I believe that that's wrong, what he's saying, in that we could do this if everybody was participating in building. Those folks exist, but they are a small part of the greater Green Party. So folks, our candidates needed to do the work to build a bigger base.
Chad, you'll need to unmute yourself if you're trying to talk.
Right. Well, I was just going to wait. It made sense for everybody to go ahead and say their 1 minute, and then we could kind of go from there.
Go ahead, you're ready.
So, I mean, the question was, how do we grow the party, and how do we unify? Will you just say it one more time real quick? Sorry.
Yeah, how do you grow the party, unify, and build a winning coalition?
Offer Ventura the nomination. I mean, it's pretty simple. We all have good ideas, and we all have pieces of the puzzle, but we need a face. We need our best player that can win, that can take us home in November to do this. I believe. So what's been going on, all these things in 2018, Andrea, which is Howie Hawkins' campaign manager, when we did that initial group to try to get things going, Hawkins campaign manager with our now ballot access coordinator, Brennan Phillips, discussed loading up the PCSC, and the PCSC is the Presidential Campaign Support Committee, and they're the ones that are dealing with all this stuff. So, point being is this whole thing. Some of the things that they've done was been to block Ventura. Even Justin Beth is the liaison to the PCSC, aka Austin, and he was like, had his hands all over the exploratory committee, and he shouldn't have been. He's on the steering. He's a national co-chair in Aaron Fox's ear. This is the guy that's running for Ventura when he actually did his little again testing the water. So they've been sabotaging him, and he's agreeing. And I think it's at least important to have this conversation because they've been reaching out to me. Venturians is how I like to call them. They've been reaching out to me. They're an excited base. People from all over the world. They've been following him. He's been campaigning for 20 years. People have been asking him, and it's the first time he's tested the water. So to see that and to see what can be done, and then people just dismissing this energy, this lively group of people, So I think that's where it is. The leadership comes down. So what everybody's saying is correct. We just need the right face that it can implement all of our ideas, because right now, we have to understand the role of the nominee, the face, we all have value to bring, but I think that would tie everything in together.
All right. I see Sedinum raising her hand. She's got an issue with that. Go ahead.
Yes, I do. First and foremost, Chad don't want to say that I stuck Ventura's face onto our debate. I think it's exciting. He's an awesome person, but he has to do the work. And part of that is what folks need to do. People don't understand that in a national political party, there's a way. If all candidates did the work that I've definitely been asking us to do and laying the form work, this wouldn't be an issue. But there's still a way to do it. Get involved. They know I've been sending stuff. Let's do this. Let's do that. Because unity wins. But to impose somebody without going through a process is unacceptable. He's exciting. I've invited him to debates. I shared whatever information I had. So not opposed, but let's have a real honest who did what, who didn't do what, and move forward.
All right. Well, let me respond to that. First of all, Ventura was sabotaged, like I said. And when you say Ventura hasn't done the work, Ventura was a mayor. Ventura was a governor. There's been no other Greens that have been governor. I'm speaking. You said do the work.
I'm saying that's not.
Hold on. Sedinum. Let Chad respond. Go ahead, Chad.
Ventura was a governor. He's been spending his whole life campaigning. He's been spending his whole life telling people what's going on. He's been pushing back. He's actually won an office that nobody in the Green Party has ever done. His reputation, he's putting his reputation on the line for the Green Party. That's a lot. His life's work is going for people, the way they treat him like shit and say, oh, you're not a Green, or what have you done? What have you done? He's putting his reputation on the line. He's not just a celebrity. He was a governor. He was a governor of a state, more than anybody that all of our candidates have done combined. Completely. Nobody has ever won governor. We are continually losing people, and he's offended because people tell him that he's not a Green.
Okay.
15 seconds.
Go ahead.
Ventura is awesome. I just wanted to correct you that I never said he didn't do the work. I'm saying you all as candidates didn't do the work. Again, I welcome him. I support them. I send them information. But we, don't put words in my mouth. He's awesome.
All right. Okay, you said we didn't do the work. Did you show up last week when I invited all the candidates to talk about the Ventura option in light of the rigging, in light of all this dirtiness that's gone down? Since it's a void primary, I wanted to talk to all the candidates, say, what should we do as a unit? Do we want to win? Did you show up? That's the work you're talking about. Did you show up?
Is that to me?
I mean, you just asked, or you just said that we didn't do the work, and I'm asking you, did you show up?
So this is a reality. As a national party, we have culture and a system. You all never did commit to doing a disputes resolution. You haven't followed up yet. Those women who are doing the work, anything they need, I've given it to them. So as I told you, as I told David, what's the other one? Dennis, you just talking means nothing unless you have substance. And you
Okay.
the word, no, I can't be involved
Well,
with people
well,
just
who runs those
Real,
committees? Those
real quick,
committees are stacked.
real
Those
quick
committees are stacked.
before you go forward,
on to
Chad.
the next question, right?
Well, actually, I think David has some issue he wanted to raise with what Chad was saying. So, Chad, I want to give you a chance, like last word on this before we invite David's response.
These committees are stacked. The PCSC was clear. We have a recording of John Andrews, the PCSC co-chair, from in November, talking down all the candidates, saying we're lying, dismissing. They tried to kick David out of the party in Massachusetts. We know all this thing is void. The whole point is to have this conversation and to not show up, to not acknowledge, okay, who are our best players? As a leader, you say you're a leader, you say we're a leader. As a coach, they would put their best player in the game-winning moment. If you're not even open to having the conversation, you're not really doing what you say you're doing. So that's how I say.
All right. So David wanted to raise issue with what Chad was saying. David, you go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, it's what both of them are saying, and I agree with most of what both of them are saying. The primary process has been very corrupt and has been led by insiders who are trying to make sure that Howie Hawkins is the nominee and not being fair about putting other candidates on the ballots, etc. And I agree with Sudanam that that people within the party, including the candidates and other good people within the party, could unite and fix the problem and unite the party around something. I mean, I think it needs to be around stopping the corona apocalypse deep state coup. We need an international investigation of who caused the coronavirus crisis. We need to put Bill Gates and the other perpetrators on trial. We need to bail out the people, not the billionaires. They gave away trillions of dollars to banks that has to be returned to the people. We need economic human rights for everyone and good voluntary, not-for-profit healthcare for free to everyone. And we need to stop the lockdown, no forced contact coronavirus testing or contact tracing or forced vaccines or forced mask wearing. And I mean, whoever the Green Party nominee is has to uniting people around this issue. And it could be Jesse Ventura, but Sudanam is right that there hasn't been a process to pick to nominate Jesse Ventura. So I don't know how we're gonna move the party forward. It's not. Sudanam wants to blame me and Chad and the other candidates for this not happening. I haven't been able to do enough, but I mean, it's not about one person. What they do, Sudanam could have done more too. She could have, done the grievance, filed the grievance too. So
all by myself.
By
myself.
Okay,
well,
so
you wanted me. I should have myself, but I'm just one person and I have my own problems and I wasn't able to do that and
you cut out there, David.
I couldn't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, just the last couple seconds we missed out on.
Well, I think I should have done more. I should have filed official disputes with the GPUS and stuff, and I wasn't able to do that. I'm just one person, and I've been having my own personal problems earlier this year, and I wasn't able to do that. And I'm sorry, but it's not just me. None of the candidates were able to get together and do this.
Okay.
So the blame goes all around. We're all trying the best we can.
All right. So before we move on to the next question, Sudanam, Chad, any of you guys wanted to respond to
that? Just that.
Yes.
Go ahead, Sudanam.
This is the reality. Leadership it's more than just talking. If you don't have the template and understand that it is about getting folks involved, and I know that each one of them will say from day one, outreaching, pulling folks in, standing up for people, setting up situations so that things can happen. Folks just didn't show up to do the work for whatever reason. But at a national political party level, that's why everybody who wants to be a presidential candidate needs to run as VP, maybe a term before, because there's a level of sophistication you have to get. And there's no excuse. If I don't do something, it's only because you didn't do two steps. But you can't not, you have to be reciprocal when it comes to building. That's
That's fine.
leadership. I've shown a model that works. And as you saw, when I saw Jesse Ventura, I reached out, pulled him right in. So that's leadership. Leadership. If there's a list of things our campaign, from helping write press releases, from making sure there's a tablecloth, from pushing each of us to call each other, from setting up meetings. My record is clear and I stand on it.
All right, and Chad.
Yeah.
Chad, you cut out.
Yeah,
Can
it's a video chat is available for 25 for more than 25 users. Oh, okay. They cut out my video, but that's all right.
No, you got, because it's live stream.
1 second, I'm gonna fix that.
Get somebody. No, he's lazy. You know, he's here because he's on the debate. We got to see him too. That's
Yeah.
leadership.
Let's see, 1 sec.
Yeah, got it. It's protocol. You're a candidate. We should see you.
All right. Are you?
I
Oh, we
can't
went
see him.
over. Let's see.
You'll need to re-click video again.
Click, please.
It's not. It's there's a no sign on it.
Okay.
Oh,
there it goes.
Try now.
nice picture of
There
you.
you go.
There we go.
Sorry about that.
No problem. No problem.
I'm muting.
All right. Here we go. There's a difference between giving ideas and expecting everyone to do all the legwork, and then you taking credit for just giving those ideas. The whole conflict resolution thing is one of the routes. But when you have these people that are in these positions that are running it, there's just this handful of people that's not going to do shit if you don't have the narrative, if you don't have the actual public support. And you talk about people right now, there's a huge group, thousands and thousands of Venturians right now waiting for the word. People that have signed a petition in just a few weeks, damn, more than half of who's even voted in this whole primary season. The point is when you talk about outreach, it's not just about kissing ass within the party of people that are the ones that are gatekeeping. This has to do with opening the door and saying, this is the problem, and we're not afraid to get rid of these people.
That's time.
Thank you.
All right. Sorry about that little technical hiccup. Shouldn't happen again. So, next question we've got here. Now, I'm not saying this is actually the case, but to a lot of people who aren't familiar with the Green Party, the Green Party's kind of flagship thing is the environment. It's not obviously a one-issue party, but to a lot of laymen, it seems almost like a one-issue party. And with a lot of things going on recently, COVID, decolonization, I've noticed that the Green Party is certainly branching out. And I guess the question here is, what is the role for the Green Party of the environment as, like, I guess, a flagship issue? Is this still the number one focus? Is that just a part of the bigger platform? So we'll go ahead and start with Sudanam.
Okay. It's called Green Party for a reason. I believe we all have to be very clear. The earth does not need us. So I think our society has to reshift. Since 1945, our species has been able to annihilate ourselves from the earth. So we need to come up with a way, and the Green Party's supposed to be doing that, how do we, as this species, human species, live sustainably and within resilience to this planet? Our campaign is pushing the green system change. Now, our national party pushes the Green New Deal, which we don't support. So, green is our flagship, and I'm not afraid of that because as our species, we have to stay on this planet, and we're not staying on the planet. We're only us. Our species would leave here. And as I said to you from the start, the reason I joined 18 years ago is because my commitment was ending white privilege, and ending capitalism, ending neocolonialism, and racism. So the environment and racism are in, you can't separate them. So as a co-founder of the Black Caucus, those things had to be what I'm into. We
That's
just
time.
a clear thing to get it done.
All right,
So
and so just for clarity, it was suggested by Chad. I actually agree. We'll hold off on responses until everyone's had a chance to answer the initial question.
no
So
problem.
with that, we'll go ahead with Chad. Same question.
Um, I, for me, what got me into the Green Party was the 4 pillars, right? I understand the story. I don't know if you guys, a religious thing, Constantine, he had a dream or something, a vision, whatever, about uniting people under the Christian flag. And, he was the one who put the Council and the Sea together, religious. But I thought that the 4 pillars were something that could really bring people together. The ecological wisdom, grassroots democracy, nonviolence, and social justice, which I like to say justice for all. But I feel like those 4 things can unite people because it's broad enough, but you can just apply the 10. Actually, our 10 key values can be sorted underneath that. So the environment is a big part of it, but I think that those key components can give us a real platform, a real place for people to meet and have a discussion, have dissent, show people a way to have discourse. And I think you can do it under those pillars. So environment is one thing, and then we do have like a little bit of a tree hugging kind of vibe, like what people think, and I think we should go with it, go into it, and go hard with the cannabis culture. And I say a cannabis connection because all the things that are connected with it, we can do like a real butterfly effect of change with that. So
Cannabis culture gives a whole new meaning to the Green Party.
yeah.
All right. So same question to. Oh shoot, my Discord's lagging. One sec. David, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
So yeah, the environment, it's crucial, but it's not like it's interconnected with every issue, about every issue, just like any party. We're not different in that way. Every party like has a position on everything, and the world is on the brink of destruction because people with this colonial, imperialist, capitalist attitude are in charge of the United States regime, and which is an empire that's dominating the world. And the capitalism is based on European colonialism and imperialism, plundering the earth and on oppressing people of every nationality. And we need to put an end to that, and we need to shift to let other people who don't have that state of mind running things. We need a revolution, not a New Deal to save capitalism. So I agree with Pseudonym on that. And capitalism, like the capitalist mindset is about plundering the earth and not caring, which, as Pseudonym says, the earth is the basic thing. We need the earth. It's not the earth that needs us. And it's also, capitalism is also about producing and overproducing for profit instead of to try to live in harmony with the earth. So we need a revolution to put like working class Black and Indigenous people in power and give them the reparations and their land back and everything they deserve, so that they can use African and Indigenous wisdom to live sustainably. And we
All
need
right.
to,
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
to be
Sorry.
able to go forward at this time, because it's being threatened that there's going to be a situation where it's not going to be possible to have a revolution if we stop the coup right now.
All right. So before we move on, does anyone want to respond to something said? Go ahead, set it up.
3 things. Am I muted?
No.
Okay, 3 things. One, it's really important that people understand the doctrine of discovery. And what Chad mentioned, the role of Constantine, all those are part of the European mindset of whiteness and white privilege. So we have to deconstruct that wasn't a healthy and safe thing. So doctrine of discovery, the Berlin Conference, and that meeting caused many of the problems we see erupting today. Because that's the beginning of our nation, which were 13 colonies. They kicked away from England, but they didn't let Black folks, because we were 3/4 human being, women. This is the 100-year celebration for suffrage. They didn't let European DNA, men without land, and then they stole native land. So that is a mindset that we have to stop. And the Green Party hasn't done enough to be revolutionary. The second point is that, we came out of the German Green Party back in the 1883, and they had discussions to form a coalition, social democratic government. And the third thing is that we must not pretend. And I'm a 4th generation farmer, so soil is the key to my life and to everybody's life. So I'm glad you took the cannabis, because I'm involved with the Hemp Coalition of Ghana. But green cannot be negative. We have to reconnect ourselves. Everybody needs to know how to grow something.
It's time.
That's my 3.
Yeah, can I respond to that?
Yeah, go ahead, Chad.
And I'm glad she brought that up, because it gives me a second to clarify exactly what I was saying. What you're saying, the point had nothing to do with my whiteness or European thoughts. This has to do with understanding the value of symbolism, like branding, the art direction, talking about culture, how we create a culture. So understanding how these things are important into unifying people and to making people feel a part of something. The idea is not to mislead someone or do some sort of grand scheme. It's to say, hey, here's our values, and we live by these values. These are the values that we follow. And if you actually believe in those values, here's a banner for you to get behind. So it's cultural coup for a political coup.
All right, Suriname.
Let's make no mistake. European DNA folk have messed up the planet with this mindset. I cannot pretend as a social scientist that the Nicene Committee, the Council of Nicene, is not racist. So I can't allow that to stand like that. You made a reference, but you got to understand the historical, social, and civic connection to your symbolism. For me as a Black woman, it's not significant at all. And it shows a lack of understanding and depth of who you're dealing with and what you're dealing with on a national level and international level. The Green Party is in 90 nations.
That's time.
Okay.
I think David wanted to.
Yeah, sorry about that. David, did you want to chime in with the response here?
Response here?
Yeah. So the capitalists, the rulers, the people who are in charge have created a colonial situation where it's a white nation and white people are privileged citizens and other people are colonized, and they've done this in order to divide the white working class, the white people who like aren't actually in power, to have them side with the misleaders of the world against the other colonized people. And so, I mean, white people bear responsibility for doing that. What we need to do is unite everybody against the leaders, the leadership that are destroying the earth, and the white people and even some colonized people need to stop going along with the capitalist imperialist, like, producing and consuming mindset. We need to
That's fine.
take over and
Thanks.
yeah, have a government that will work for sustainability for
All right.
you
So,
know.
Go ahead.
So,
oh, go ahead, Jen.
I just real quick. That's the point is about the power of art and culture. This is not about the capitalist mindset. This is not about the social construct. It's about understanding how social constructs work and how to have a place to go to that allows us and educates us, regardless of where we at on the spectrum of knowing what's going on, is how to identify what you guys are talking about. So I'm trying to go into the psychology of this and to show how you unify people is through art and entertainment. It's about connection. There's something about music. There's something about visual, and with the internet and having to be able to communicate in this way, there's so much. So that's the point. It's not about furthering anything. It's about using what we have, our resources, to expose and be the architects of a society that we want. Thank you.
All right. So, next question we have is one selected by Daffy. Daffy, you want to go ahead and read it out?
Yep. So the question is, how would you go about easing racial tensions and discrimination in modern day America?
Okay. All right. So, Sudanam, do you want to kick us off with this question?
With ease. With ease. I'm degreed in Black Studies. I've lived abroad for 31 years of my adult life. And as I said, first and foremost, there's no such thing as white. So if we stop using that social construct, that would eliminate everything. Second, if everybody did a DNA test, the $300 ones, we would all realize we Black. Everybody from Africa. So these constructs have been used to harm us and stop us from loving and living with each other as brothers and sisters and relatives. We are all related. There's no one that's not related. So I would, as I started when I came here, in this whole concept of whiteness. Two, I would do anti-racism. Our campaign has been doing an open read of Ibrahim Kendi's book twice, and we're pushing the Green Party to become openly anti-racist. After this call, we'll be doing our fourth book read. The third thing I would do is have America at 300, a survey asking every American what it is they want, they think, they envision, and care to do to build a more perfect union. And
That's
fourth,
fine.
I would start a Department of Anti-Racism.
All right. So,
Okay.
same question over to David. Once again, it's how would you go about easing racial tensions and discrimination in modern day America?
What we need to undo and make up for the historical injustices. We really need to do whatever it takes to give the land rights back to the indigenous people. We need full reparations. Turn over all the resources to Black and Brown people, and Black and Brown people need to have self-determination. They need to have control over all the institutions in their community. We need the police are a colonial occupation. Black and draw them, and we need to give the return the resources to the Black and Brown community so they can have their own police system. There needs to be Black and Brown community control of the police, Black and Brown community control of healthcare, so there's good healthcare, not like for-profit big pharma healthcare. and there needs to be Black and brown community control over housing and economic development. And like we actually Black and brown people should be in control of the whole what of the United States. The United States needs to be shut down, and everything needs to be turned over to people who will do a better job of administering the resources and saving the planet. Over.
All right, and Chad.
Yes. Well, first of all, we legalized cannabis straight off. There's more people in jail for cannabis than all violent crimes combined. Blacks and minorities are 4 to 5 times as likely to be incarcerated, even though whites and blacks use around the same rate. So that is like the real issue that they've used to continue this whole cycle. And like we talked about the connection, this butterfly effect that could change. I mean, even would change the interaction between, again, the cops and the community, because it would take away over half of the reason why anybody's being messed with anyways. And that's just off the bat with that. So start with a reparations on the war on drugs, because it's something that's tangible for everybody to see right now. And then we can fund for everyone to see the results of slavery and racism, and we can work way back, because the idea is to provide justice for everyone that was disenfranchised, well, their lives torn apart because of the war on drugs. And what you're going to find out is the discrepancy, obviously, between blacks and minorities to whites is going to be huge. So that way, what it does is allows people to feel justice for them, for what they've experienced, their emotions, and it gives a connection of justice and where people can move forward. So we just redirect everything. You know, we empty all these nonviolent drug offenses. We take all these broken down buildings, broken down houses all throughout the rural area, and regrow thing, community living. There's small housing. There's all sorts of things we could do.
All right. And would anyone like to respond to something that someone else said?
Just a point of clarity.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Chad, your
Point of clarification.
video cut out.
It did the same thing again.
Wow.
What?
It came back.
Okay. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Sudanam.
3 points of clarification. People have ethnicities. So European DNA, Black Americans, and the disparities, and the majority of, if you look around the world, if we look at ourselves as a planet, the only folks who are in the minority are Europeans. Asian, black folks gonna be the majority in 20 years and in the world. And here in the US, it'll be brown folks. So I think it's really important to understand succession planning. Some of the points they raised were good, but it has to be structured inside of a system which is based on ecological economics, based on the earth. So I just, no one said, you know, making sure the economics is based on ecological economics.
All right. And sorry, Chad, did you want to respond here?
No. I mean, I agree. I mean, it's such a question that there's so many things to do. So I mean, it's just, you can keep adding on to all the pieces that this is going to affect. So as it snowballs. So.
Okay. All right. I think I saw, David, you were trying to jump in here. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah. So the Black liberation movement, it's a very powerful and legitimate and necessary struggle that's been going on for a long time that we have to support. That's the basis of my life, is this. But the current protests are the Democrats and the Black Lives Matter organization, which is controlled by Democrats and billionaires, is trying to co-opt these protests and this movement in order to make it not be revolutionary, but in order to make it to bring the Democratic Party back into power. It's like being turned to be just against Trump, and Trump isn't the problem. It's the whole system. And the Democrats, like as Surinam mentioned, they're not about ecological economics. Their Green New Deal is a bunch of phony stuff that's going to keep the capitalists and billionaires in power and not end wars or militarism or all these weapons and all this overproduction. So we have to be very clear that we need a real green revolution, not just this like Black Lives Matter movement against Trump, you know?
All right.
All right.
So moving on, our next question here is from Kale. Kale, could you go ahead and read that off? Read that off and let
Number
us know who
4.
originally asked the question.
Sure. So this question is from ID Heaven, and they're wondering, what is the place for hydropower in the Green Party's plan?
All right. David, do you want to start us off on this one?
Do you want to start us off on this one?
Okay, well, I don't have a very long answer. I think there's some place for hydropower, but we need to be very careful about it. We can't be like damming rivers and destroying ecosystems for power. Like there are various kinds of cleaner power than what we're using now, and we need to investigate all kinds of power, including hydropower. We also need to reduce our power consumption as well. So there can be some hydropower, but I'm not for like destroying the environment.
Certainly. All right. And sorry, Chad.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think at this point the real problem has to do is with the studies of everything and how we trust our energy sources. That's one of the things is we're not being allowed to grow our technology to where these things are 100% renewable without all these effects that we don't want. You know, that's why they've kept the same energy practices in. So point like exactly what David said. You just have to make sure that any and every energy from here on out is more of a is crowdsourced, I guess, and more open source to where if it's providing if it's helping and not destroying, then we use it, you know, better technology.
All right. And Surinam.
Okay, we are opposed to hydro. And the reason is the negative effects. It's like proposing replacing small hydropower plants with trees called ulcers or basket willows, Salix valerianus, which would enable wastewater treatment and resolve sewage issues in all residential areas, improve energy, it stabilizes, it drives local development, and it secures huge savings for state and local budgets. So it's not something we support, but as other folks have mentioned, there's other alternatives. For us, the green system change, everything has to connect with the biodynamic earth. If it's not in line with the earth system, it's not okay.
All right. And did anyone want to respond or rebut something already said? Okay. I'm not seeing anything, so we'll just go ahead and move on to the next question. Sushi, you had a question you flagged. Can you go ahead and read that one off and let us know who asked it originally?
David had something to say.
Oh, sorry about that. Go ahead. I'm sorry. David, could you start over again? We got you muted on.
Can you start over again?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I can hear you. Go ahead.
I just want to add that that power production needs to be taken. Can't be under capitalism. It can't be for profit. Power production needs to be nationalized, and the decision about what power to use has to take into account preserving the earth and us living in harmony with the earth, and also has to take into account like local communities and the needs of local communities where the power production is sited.
Okay.
Okay.
That seemed like a response to what Sunam was saying. Sunam, did you want to follow up on that, or?
It's the same thing. No.
Okay.
Same thing.
All right. So then we'll move on to the next question. Sushi, you had one flag. Can you go ahead and read that out and let us know who asked it originally?
All right. So Bait wants to know, what is your views on nuclear power?
All right. Nuclear power. Sunam, do you want to start us off on this one?
I'm anti-nuclear. I've been since for the last 50 years. I'm against nuclear. It has no place. Because you can't, I'm a farmer. And you can't, it does not decompose for thousands of years. So if it's not in line with the earth, I'm not for it. It will not help us do anything better long term. It's a quick solution to a problem that can be solved by change of lifestyle, through policies, to what we eat, what we grow, where we live. We have to rethink how we can live on this earth, because she does not need us. She doesn't. So no fast and quick to something that's long term. I'm anti-nuclear.
All right. And David, what are your thoughts on nuclear power?
About nuclear power?
I'm anti-nuclear as well. I mean, the development of nuclear power has been closely associated with the development of nuclear weapons, and we need to get rid of both of them. And I read some of the chat questions about like nuclear power could be made like safe, that there wouldn't be a risk of a meltdown and an accident. And I don't know if that's true, but even if it were true, there's still the question of the nuclear waste, which, as Sunam mentioned, that lasts forever, and we have to put it somewhere, and that's a really big problem. And there's also the question of extracting elements from the earth that are needed to produce nuclear power, and where all that is going to come from. And there's just so many problems with nuclear power. I mean, I'm open to reading more stuff about it, but I'm opposed to nuclear power. And the U.S. needs to lead the way in eliminating nuclear weapons and nuclear power. Blame Iran for it or something. We're the ones who started this problem.
All right. And same question for Chad. Thoughts on nuclear power?
I'm anti-nuclear power. My whole thing is about technology. We have to think Star Trek. We have to. This is the whole thing about culture and design and create the world that we want. Be the architect. So we have to just we can't allow people to disrupt growth of technology for just an endless profit scheme. And that's the way we have to look at it. Is it's not about getting caught up on one thing. It's not about getting romantic about one energy source. It's about getting away from anything that Sednam keeps saying the same thing that's hurting our environment. So these are the goals. Is what's happening is that these corrupt people are in the way, in place, that are more curious about, more worried about keeping this same model of money flowing in and this whole system than they are with the damage that it's causing to the earth and to people. So that's kind of the approach that I want to take at it, and as someone that's going to be privy to all the information, the best scientists, the real proof, the real that would be the way to approach. Okay.
So I'm assuming that no one has any rebuttals here because you guys are all on the same page on this issue. So next question we've got here is one that Willie flagged. He's not able to speak right now, but Kale is going to read out his question.
Yeah. So this question is from Ram Ravi. So on the issue of freedom of speech versus hate speech, where do you all stand?
All right. So free speech versus hate speech. We'll start off with Chad.
This is a great question. See, this is the kind of question that people need to be having. This is the kind of dialogue that people need to be having it's a problem within in the Green Party because they use these broad terms and stuff like that. Anything's a personal attack. If you call someone out for their behavior and what they've done, it is a personal attack, especially if they're in a leadership position, they mute you or kick you out, or all that kind of stuff. So there is a line, but we have to realize it's about language and understanding the intent of what someone has trying to say. Again, does it mean to be always condone, in whatever setting or however it's presented, but people use different language, different vernacular to explain things. So that's one of the big things. But if you're just trying to talk down on somebody, and as far as bigotry, to just point out certain cultural things, I think what it does is it shows your lack of understanding. And sometimes it's important to see people's ignorance. We just need to learn how to engage with people to say, okay, hey, well, this person's ignorant based, and understand the building blocks of why they're ignorant, so we can reach them, because we don't want to push them away out of society. We want to change the way that they feel and the way that their lens of how they look at other people. So
That's time.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay.
You can wrap up. I'm sorry.
David, same question here. Hate speech versus free speech.
Free speech.
I'm for free speech. I mean, I see laws like that. People can't can't boycott Israel because that's hatred of Jews, and that's not true. Like the Zionist control of Palestine, it's a colonial operation, and I know Black activists who have been kicked off Facebook as allegedly hating white people because they complain about they post about the oppression of Black people and they get angry about it. And I see people shut down for talking against big pharma and bringing up the issue of toxic vaccines, the issue of the 5G and other like poisoning by cell phone and communications radiation. And we're just living in this era of increased censorship that's justified by one reason or another. Like there's a movement within the Green Party to kick the Georgia Green Party out of the GPUS because they've like stood up for sex-based rights for women, and they've talked about questioning the wisdom of doing medical interventions on children for gender dysphoria, and they can't be kicked out. We need to all unite and work on the important issues together, and if we have a disagreement, we need to be able to talk about it and try to come to some kind of consensus. So
That's
I'm
time.
like against labeling some such as speech and banning speech.
All right. And same question, pseudonym.
The term I've been using is cognitive dissonance. What happens is the majority of people don't have a clue about the facts about our nation. First and foremost, everybody educated in the US was educated in a racially ignorant way. The whole concept of founders when this land was here already. So many times, if we are truth seeking, if we deconstruct how come someone thinks that way, you just look at them. You know they just don't know what they're talking about. So I'm against content-based speech regulation. I only answer to what I call myself. If someone's acting a fool, that's who they are. I don't have to attend to them. But I understand in certain situations that people can be provoked by lies and disinformation. So I think it has to be really, I believe in freedom of speech. But for children, I believe that there has to be a code of conduct and what things can be done and said around children because they are still in developmental stages. Unless it's just the truth, I'm good with it. But until we deconstruct who we are, where we are, and how each of us got here, and that we're all related, I believe that we have to have some level of protocol, especially for children. I don't see any speech as hate for adults. Because if you
That's
don't
fine.
have to listen, that was time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, no problem.
So, would anyone like to respond or rebut something that was said?
Freedom of speech.
No, you know, I'll just add to what they were saying. I mean, it really is about lens, is about language, and even what David was saying is to understand that America is a melting pot of cultures, but all these cultures also have subcultures and have all these little inner working pieces. And the idea is to understand that we all overlap in different ways. So those that have 1 foot in, one culture, 1 foot out, or whatnot, that really understand the pulse and the thread, those are the ones that are supposed to help each other understand what somebody means behind something, as well as be able to reach out to somebody and say, hey, I know you mean this, but here's a better way to explain it. And that's what I've been trying to really look at is why people and feel the way that they feel and what they're feeling. So to that way I don't have to have an emotional response off of it. I can do a certain approach.
All right. So just a heads up on time, everyone. We're a little over an hour in. We've got about another hour or so left before we start wrapping up. If you've got questions that you would like asked, write them in the Green Party debate questions chat, and we'll get to the best ones. So next one we have here is from Lil Bill, related to an earlier question.
Sorry, I think David wanted to say something.
Saw David's hand.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. 1 sec. Sorry about that. Go ahead, David.
Go ahead, David.
Yeah, hate speech is a concept that's used disingenuously by the capitalist billionaires and corporations who are in power to like try to make it impossible for people to speak out against the things that they are doing to kill human beings and destroy the earth. And we need to, it's not just about our culture, it's like this concept of hate speech is used by the people who are ruling over us, and we need to rebel against censorship.
Okay. All right. So sorry about that. And again, I'm not trying to miss it, but if anyone is trying to get in something and I miss them, someone just please do shout out and flag it down for me. I don't want anything to be missed here. So our next question comes from Lil Bill, related to an earlier question. He wants to know, how would you go about helping those whose jobs rely on fossil fuels transition into a green economy? Student, do you want to start us off with this one?
Very simple. Farm. I'm a 4th generation farmer. To have people who have taken from the earth know how to love her and let her help you grow your food to eat is the easiest transition, because they have seen the extraction. Now they'll see the regeneration and then the goodness that comes when you care. I would clearly create a transition department for extraction industry, for agriculture and farming, especially definitely organic, because these people have a debt to play in a certain way. It's reciprocity. That would not be difficult at all.
All right. And same question, Chad?
Yeah. Say it again, so I could make sure I frame it right. I was making notes about it, but
Yeah. How would you help people whose jobs rely on fossil fuels transition into a green economy?
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, it's reclaim, renew, reuse, and repurpose. If my whole idea was a green guarantee. Basically, our food, clothing, shelter, water, education. We have the internet. This is the biggest way that we can share information of how to do things and what to do. We have plenty of land, like Said was saying, for farming. We have plenty of these old houses, old buildings, everything to break down. If we need to tear it down, we can learn how to reuse everything, how to make things out of it. Even they've got your storage container buildings and houses, how they do things. You can take these planes. There's so many creative ways, artful ways. I mean, we could even take our plastic, which is one of the things we need to do, and 3D print from that, hempcrete, do all these different things. So rebuild our infrastructure through all these mechanisms that we can do on local levels and of course state levels and federal levels. All these things need to be taken care of. I mean, we just retrain and apply where needed.
All right, and same question for David. Sorry, I want to set my things. My display is a little bit slow. Go ahead, David.
Go ahead, David.
Okay, well, I agree that we need to help people transition to doing like things that are useful and not harmful, to doing local organic farming and to working in the arts, etc. But the key answer to this question is that economic human rights for everyone that don't depend on their employment. Everybody has a right to housing, a right to clean food, water, and air, and a right to medical care. So many economic human rights include like a right to a universal basic income or some discretionary spending money on top of those human rights, and it can't depend on them having a job and needing to go and do something that's destructive and corporation and do something destructive to the world. We need to take care of people's needs just because they're human beings, and then they will seek to do something productive or something good, and we can help them with that too.
All right, and did anyone want to respond to something said here? Okay. All right, so not seeing anything here. Sushi had a question he wanted to ask in VC about the military. You ready, Sushi?
Yeah. I wanted to know, how do you guys think we should go about making the military more eco-friendly?
All right, so how to make the military more eco-friendly. David, do you want to start us off with this one?
Well, this has been the basic issue in my campaign. Is I'm for really eliminating the military. The U.S. military can't, and the U.S. weapons industry. The U.S. military can't be eco-friendly because its whole purpose for being is to plunder the world and control the world and destroy things and use all these weapons that are produced for profit. And it doesn't do anything good. It only destroys the environment, destroys communities and societies around the world. And we need to cut the U.S. military budget to zero and eliminate it. And I mean, that doesn't go far enough, because the military is. We also need to shut down big pharma and big agriculture and big data and just the weapons, because all these things under capitalism are destroying the earth. We need to go to a totally different model. You can't just, but the U.S. military itself has to be shut down. It can't be reformed.
All right, and same question to you, Chad. How would you make the military more eco-friendly?
First of all, we take our troops from, where we're occupying all these places. That would be the first thing. But we have to realize that we're in a new shift in society. This is the first time in history that we're able to communicate in this way through social media. We've never had this. We're still young in it. We just have to figure out how to do this. So we have to learn how, and that's one of the pillars, is the nonviolence pillar, is that we purposely do everything around this model of not being violent, which means it has to be here. And goes back to even to censorship. We shouldn't censor people because we want people to say how they feel, so we know how people are feeling, so we can work through it, so we can learn how to engage people at where they are at on the spectrum. So we need a conscious evolution, and and we have to, well, first of all, we have to look at what they're doing. Their biggest control is not our military. It's this right here, the way that they program. So we need the three key issues that can unite us all. Well, behind is the censorship, the propaganda, and the corruption. Those three things are what is allowing us to overbloat our military, do all these kind of things, be a bully, invade and kill and murder and all this kind of stuff. So we need to have just shift our way of thinking. Again, be the architects and design how we approach everything. Redesign, I guess.
All right. And same question for Pseudonym. How would you make the military more eco-friendly?
First, we would have to do similar to what they said, but it has to be a process of truth, reconciliation, and healing, and then a paradigm shift in what security means. And for me, as I've said before, the earth must be secure. So if the military role is to protect the planet that feeds, houses, and clothes us, then I'm good. The other thing is that everybody on earth is not on the same page because of what has happened, historically, with all those doctrine of discoveries, our own misdevelopment as human beings. So these things must take place. So if the military's goal and vision is to first protect the planet, then that's how we become eco-friendly. Because without this planet, none of us can live. So their vision, goal, and mission must be to protect the earth first and foremost.
All right. And would anyone like to respond to something said during this segment?
Sure. I just wanted to add on, and actually, it's a perfect segment. One of the things that even Jesse Ventura has said is that he would take 20% of the budget and build the machines to go of our military budget to go and clean up the oceans. These machines that go clean up the plastic and stuff like that. So that's an actual policy thing that Ventura's talked about plenty of times. So I just wanted to add that in.
Okay. All right. So move on to another question here. This seems like a question asked by a libertarian, but I think it's great to get some cross-party talking here. Tenet wants to know, do you have the right to take something that another person created without their consent? So I guess, to put this another way, in your mind, when we use the government, what does the role of consent and the governed play in that? Chad, do you want to kick us off with that?
Okay, so it's applied to the government, basically.
Right.
Because gotcha. Okay, say it one more time. But just let me process it real quick.
Oh yeah. So I kind of put two questions there together, so I'll read them out again. Tenet wrote, "Do you have the right to take something that another person created without their consent?" And I'm asking this because this is normally a libertarian kind of question. Their
right.
main concern is how does the government interplay with consent, when they're acting upon the citizenry. So I guess I'm asking, what do you view as the role or the interplay between consent and the actions of the government?
Well, I think we have the technology, or we should be able to have the technology to really be able to make these decisions, community wise. If there's something that's needed, well, first of all, a lot of these things should be taken care of anyways. But if we were going to, and I guess it seems more of on a tax thing. So you said libertarian, so it threw me automatically. So I understand the framing. And I guess I started, but when you first said it, I thought about it as music, right? And that principle. Certain things, if I understand making money, and there's a certain system that has to do with music because I do music or whatnot, where you mechanical license to record and sell and stuff like that. But when you have bars, when you have people singing and playing and doing their versions of certain things in that manner, I feel like that when it comes to music and art, that it becomes open to where people can perform it and stuff like that. And I'm only trying to say that to tie into, we have to be honest at what are all the things that are connecting us all. That's the ecological wisdom part of the 4 pillars. So it's not about taking away from anyone. It's about making sure that that we're acknowledging all the pieces that connect us, and then we realize what we need to do as a whole. And our representation isn't there. We know we don't trust anybody. Our voting is flawed. So.
All right, same question for Pseudonym. How do you see the interplay between consent and actions of the government?
The consent of the governed is the ideal that government's legitimate and moral right by state laws are only justified and lawful when the consent is for the people or society over political we have to exercise. I'm going to give you an example. Look, as president, I would have done an executive order to take over several industries so that everybody had everything they needed during this pandemic. The second thing we have to understand is that the enslavement of Black people created the level of wealth our nation has. So sometimes libertarians, in their understanding, they don't put ducks in a row. So right now, we're only here because of Black people's free labor through our enslavement and taking native land. So these concepts have to be included into understanding how the U.S. became a global economic power. So it's not clear cut like that. And, in terms of balance, right now there's things like from election to election, people are growing less committed to that set of values. And that's why leadership is really important, because every problem has a solution, but every problem has a background as well. So I think each of us have to be clear about the education that must take place so that we're not pretending that America is okay the way it is now because it was wrong from the beginning. Remember, Black people enslaved, women couldn't vote, European DNA, unless you own males, unless you own land, and then native. So we can't pretend that we are okay, regardless of which party comes to the White House, which I want to paint green. We have to understand that consent of governed is based on a misconcept of America.
All right, and same question for David. How do you see the interplay between consent and the actions of the government?
Consent and the actions of the government.
Was that the whole question? There was the introduction to the question.
Oh, right. So the initial question that Tenet was asking is, do you have the right to take something that another person created without their consent?
Okay, well, so the answer to that question is no. The African people from Africa were brought here and enslaved, forced to produce things, and then the government, the U.S. government, facilitated taking that away from them, and that went on for over 200 years before the U.S. government, before the U.S. came into existence and after. And then there was an amendment to the Constitution that made slavery was only legal for people who were imprisoned. So we've had prison slave labor over 150 years since then, and have been taking things away from people who have created them. And then it's mostly a lot of them are African people, and we need to the U.S. we need to give everybody back the things that have been stolen from them in this way. The government doesn't have a right to take things from people, and and we also have capitalism in which people are like coerced into working for capitalists and having what they make taken away from them. And we need to end capitalism and stop doing that and let people own the means of production. So I don't really relate to the libertarian stuff. I'm not for rights for corporations to say that they're creating the things that are really made by work. If that's what the question meant. I don't know the question.
All right. Pseudonym, I'm seeing you raise your hand. You got a response?
I'm only concerned about time. I don't want to rebut anything, but I have down 3 to 5:30 or 4:30. It's at 90 minutes, so I was looking forward to do a closing statement.
One second. I believe the closing statements we had marked at 5:15 Pacific. Let me double check here.
I had the wrong time down. I have another meeting. Remember, I have something at 5,
Right.
so I got to get ready for it. And
Okay.
I wrote the wrong time down. I thought it was 90 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, we can go ahead and keep this short. So let's move on to the next segment here. What I wanted to do before we get to closing statements, see, I'll make sure we get this finished up within 30 minutes. So before we get to closing statements, I'm curious, obviously we've talked about a plethora of different issues, and I want to hear from each of you guys, if you could bring up something for discussion that we haven't talked about yet. Is there something, close to your campaign that you'd like to talk about? Chad, do you want to kick us off with that?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of brought it up earlier. I mean, I had a discussion with everyone, and I invited the candidates, and because of what's happened, this primary rigging, I think it's important that we have the discussion, really go into, okay, what are our viable options, and how can we take all these important pieces of the puzzle that we need to change, and get something implemented and something done now. So when I saw how Justin Beth, which is the liaison to the PCSC, and he's the national co-chair for Maine, as well as on the steering committee, and I saw him and using a fake name. This is what a group of Venturians came to me to say, hey, this is what's been going on. This has happened. They and sabotaged Ventura. When I found all these different things, it changed my perspective to say, okay, well, here's an opportunity, because Ventura said, if the Greens decide that I'm their man, at the nomination, then I'll reassess the situation. Basically, that he's open to this, and he's always talked about it. People have always asked him years and years and years, and even with just him testing the waters, he got like 60% or some 50-something% polling on a national polling just with that automatically. So we have to be real pragmatic and look at all his values, because I believe he is a Green, and he pledged to be Green. He is a Green, so we can't judge him if we really want to invite people. All right. So.
All right. So I think we already talked a little bit about Jesse Ventura. Pseudonym, is there anything that you wanted to bring up that we haven't discussed yet?
Yes, I asked myself a question and I answered it. What's the role you see the presidential campaign playing in the larger picture, the Green Party for the U.S.? So I see the 2020, I posted it. I see the 2020 presidential campaign as an excellent opportunity for the Green Party to expand our national progressive base, as well as to refine, expand, and share our platform while continuing to raise awareness about critical social, economic, and environmental issues. In this campaign, we Greens must emphasize a direct action and strategic plan within the current traditional electoral system that reaches traditionally unrepresented groups, women, millennials, immigrants, independents, people of color, with our timeless message of peace, justice, sustainability, and I'll add resilience. Our nation needs leadership right now, and the Green Party in the U.S., we are in the perfect position to do that. I've been pushing anti-racism. David and I both have been showing the Black 19 points. We're talking about green system change, ecological wisdom. Our platform has some great social justice. They're just not adequate. So if we take those on as we've been taking them on in the open book read, we're in the best place to lead our nation.
All right. And could you repeat the question one more time?
What role do you see the presidential campaign playing in the larger picture for the Green Party of the U.S.?
All right. Chad, what are your thoughts on that?
Win. If we win, we can make some real change. If we're actually focused and trying to break this two-party system, all those things are going to fall on into place. And if we have the right face of the party, if we have the right energy, the right person, the right values that we're following, the right vibe, we can do it. That's the one thing I didn't hear, is to win. It is to show that we can do this, that we are a major party, we have the progressive movement behind us, and we have people that are ready to fight, because this is our last chance. This is it. 2 weeks. We have 2 weeks to make something happen.
All right. And what are your thoughts on that question, David? It's once again, how do you see the Green Party presidential campaign in the bigger picture?
Well, the people who produce this election that they call democratic, and it isn't. They give our candidate a platform to say some stuff, and they think that if we do that, we're legitimizing their election. And that's not true. The Green Party candidate needs to speak out and provide some leadership to get the real issues out there and try to unite the people to shut down the government, shut down rule by satanic imperialist corporations. We need to speak out against this coronavirus coup and have an investigation and trial to shut down the perpetrators of the coronavirus coup. We need to shut down pharma, which is killing us with toxic vaccines and medication, ventilators, instead of giving us real health care. We need to shut down 5G and other toxic communication technology that's being promoted. We need to shut down both because they're toxic and they use for political repression. We need to shut down all the big agriculture and all the big corporations that are killing us, and
That's
we need
time.
a revolution out of power.
Okay.
So our candidate needs to be speaking out about that urgent, because we're trying to get these people out of power.
All right. I think I was able to catch most of what you were saying. A little bit cut out there, but so one last question, because I know this is something from what I've seen on his campaign page that's near and dear to David's heart. What is your view on Israel and Palestine? Last question here before closing statements. David, would you want to kick us off on that?
Kick us off on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, the country is called Palestine, so called Israel. It's a European colonial entity that's ruling over Palestine. Palestine is part of like a larger area of that's Arab land, including Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Iraq. Like it's all one place, and we need to shut down violence in the Middle East. Like we need to shut down European like all parts of the world to end colonialism.
Okay. Sudanam, what are your thoughts on that? issue, Israel Palestine.
Pseudonym, you're muted.
Pseudonym, you're muted. I feel like we're really missing out on something special here, Pseudonym.
Palestine must be free. Israel is illegitimate. Palestine free.
All right, Palestine must be free. All right, and Chad, what are your thoughts on this issue?
I mean, I agree. Free Palestine. I believe in the separation of church and state, and I don't think that we should be funding that. And what nobody said is what I believe is what it was. Jeffrey Epstein, I believe, was supposedly with the Israeli intelligence too, and they were blackmailing major figures. So we have to understand that this whole thing is tied into how these things are tied into our government. So it's not just a state. It's these people using a state as a way to cover for their crimes. The thing is that there's people that are hurting all over the world and under every banner, every flag, every nation. And those are the people that are important that we need to make sure we separate the people and these corrupt governments that are using our nations, because these people are using our nation. So that's the one point I just want to point out, is that we all deserve to be free and free Palestine.
All right, so we'll move on to the closing statements section of this. What I'm hoping for is if you guys could, let users know where they can find out more about your campaign. Of course, when I put this up, I'll have all 3 of your campaign pages listed in the YouTube video description. So if you're listening, after the fact, go ahead, check the description. You can find their pages. And yeah, in 5 minutes or less, just give us your closing thoughts on this. David, do you want to kick us off?
I started my website and my Facebook page.
You're breaking up, man. Yeah.
Oh crap! I cannot hear you. Yeah, it's cutting out. I'm gonna try one thing. I'm gonna try to see if disabling the video helps with your audio. Go ahead and try now.
Okay, can you hear me now?
It's a little bit better. Yeah, go ahead and we'll try to trudge through.
Can you mute your screen if you're listening to everything? Mute that, because I think what's happened is it's interfering.
I don't know how to do that. Oh, screen. Okay.
Yeah, mute what, because you're watching the stream too. So yeah, just mute it.
I don't know how to do that, but can you hear me at all?
A little bit.
Better.
Go ahead.
It's okay. I mean, I think I've said everything I want to say already. I'm a revolutionary anti-imperialist candidate. I'm not. This isn't about personalities or who should be the personality who's leading the party. It's about the issues. Whoever candidate I'd like them to work on revolutionary issues to and imperialism and colonialism and capitalism and the illegitimate things that this country has been on, and give reparations and self-determination to all oppressed people, and put working class oppressed people, Africans and indigenous people in power, so we can have their wisdom leading us to the sustainability on earth, not the imperialist capitalist like psychosis that is destroying the earth. And now it is like consolidating.
Okay, sorry. I think I caught most of that. but it got a little bit worse, and I couldn't make out anything. I feel bad, but we're just gonna move on for the sake of time. We got most of that. So, Pseudonym, you want to just give your closing statement? You are muted again, Pseudonym.
You see, I'm trained to mute myself. I want to acknowledge and thank Blue Politics AMA for doing this. I am very proud of you sticking it out. You've done well. I'm really proud of you personally, Tim. Secondly, I wish we could do a group shot of everybody. I like the icons, but I really wanted to see those folks, see everybody. So if there's any way you could do a group shot and send it to us, I'd appreciate that. The other thing is, thank you. I don't know how to do a group shot. Does anybody know how to do it?
I
got it.
can do that.
Can
If
you
you
give us
if
a count so we all smile or something?
so
Oh,
if you want to be able to enable that, in the top right hand corner of your Discord, there's 3 dots that say more, and you can unselect show non-video participants, and that will only show you 3.
No, I want everybody. That's not what I want. I want everybody.
oh. We just have
Oh,
profile pictures, but I can send you a screenshot of that.
Yeah, I just want, for history. This is the first time you've hosted a Green Party candidates presidential debate. That's a big deal for us. Maybe not for you all, but to have all of us, just tell me smile, and you got it.
All right. All right. Well, we're gonna go 3, 2, 1, cheese. All right, guys. 3, 2, 1, cheese.
Awesome. I appreciate that. I really want to copy. Our campaign since February last year has talked about green positioning system, how we can all figure out what we can agree on so we move forward. That's really important in terms of leadership to move any organization, family, any unit forward, that you have agreements and you work on your differences over time, but we have to do the long game. Green system changes about ecological economics tied directly into the biodynamic system of the earth and sustaining our species here. The second thing is anti-racist and anti-colonialism. If we don't disrupt what's going on, we're just going to burn each other up. And our campaign has been pushing anti-racism since August last year. So every state, the 27 states we visited, that's been our mantra. We've had 2 open book reads. My brothers here went to the first one, David's on our second one. And I just really want to thank everybody. And I look forward to participating in the historic non-corporate funded debates from South Central.
All right. Thank you. And Chad?
Yes. First of all, thank you guys for doing this, and thank you, Sednam, for organizing and helping them do that. Always, she's been doing a lot. I'm running for the nomination. I'm still running for president, and I know that I've been speaking on Jesse. I'm just looking at this from an opportunity to take all of our ideas and push them in the mainstream. Not 3 years, not 4 years, I'm talking about now, in 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, we can become we could be talked about nationally for what we've done as a group, as a unit. Because I see Elaine, and I'm feeling the energy, and I'm feeling and seeing what could be done if we really do unite behind these things. We just have to realize, who the best person is to lead this ship, and that's the key. And since this has been a rigged primary, since everything that the Hawkins campaign has done and their dirt and stuff like that, and I mean, we have to have a discussion about what we do. So all those people that feel like they haven't voted or haven't been included in the discussion, now is the time to get involved and to talk about this, because it is up to you. Either we have a wave of people now in the next 2 weeks deciding with a grassroots democracy what we should do, or we're going to fail and go through the whole high school politics things. And I want to win. I want to see our party succeed. I want to see the 2-party system broken. I want to see these motherfuckers be held accountable all across the board. social justice, truth, and justice for everyone. This is the shit that we need to be focused on. So thank you again for having me, and join at Chad Wilson 2020. We're having the conversation on Facebook as well, and chadwilson.us. But you know, I'm on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you.
All right. Thank you guys for coming. Really appreciate it. Of course, you know, we're Blue Politics. If anyone's listening to this, you can join us discord.gg/Blue Politics. If you already have Discord, you know, just click the plus button and enter Blue Politics. Really appreciate you guys coming on. We love getting more. Of course, we're here about civil discussion of ideas, and it's really great to bring attention to third-party ideas that don't get a whole lot of attention. Really appreciate you guys have done fantastic on this. We covered a lot of issues, and also from a plug, I'll follow up with each of you guys, hoping we can get you guys on for this. This week, we're going to be hosting a series of third-party debates between topical issues, one-on-one. We're hoping to do 12 debates from the 1st to the 3rd. So if you guys can make that, it would be fantastic. But I'll follow up with you by email. Once again, thanks for coming out. Really appreciate it. All right. And